I was already sweating when I walked into the courthouse that morning, but it had nothing to do with the temperature. Small town courtroom, wooden pews, ugly carpet, and the tension thick enough to choke on. I stood behind the defendant's table, staring straight ahead. Across from me, my older brother Darren sitting there like he owned the damn place, leaning back in his chair like this was some game he'd already won. My lawyer, Veronica Lane, leaned in close. "We've got everything. Stay quiet unless I cue you." I nodded. My jaw was tight, but I kept it shut. Let her work. Behind Darren sat our parents, Mom, stone-faced in her pearls, and Dad, arms crossed like a CEO, scoping out a bad quarterly report. Neither of them even looked at me, not once. They came to back Darren, not surprised, just pissed. Judge Morales walked in, short, blunt-cut hair, zero patience. I'd done my research, former federal prosecutor. She didn't tolerate nonsense. She shuffled a few papers, then glanced down at Darren's petition. Plaintiff alleges the defendant improperly withheld early investment returns from a private equity contribution. Company name, Ridgeview Tactical Systems. She stopped cold. Her eyes lifted. She looked straight at Darren's lawyer, then back down at the paper. "Counsel, please approach the bench." Veronica stood. Darren's attorney, a sweaty guy in a cheap gray suit, hurried up behind her. They leaned in as Judge Morales lowered her voice. But I caught the tone shift. "You filed a civil claim against Ridgeview Tactical Systems?" she asked, voice sharp now. "Are you aware that company just secured a $130 million DHS contract?" Darren's lawyer blinked like he'd been smacked. "Your Honor, I was not made aware of. That's federal funding. If any part of this claim is fraudulent, we're no longer in civil territory. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Darren sat up straight. His little smirk slipped. Veronica didn't flinch. She just crossed her arms. The judge straightened. "We'll take a short recess. Both parties prepare supporting documents. I will not tolerate the court being used to disrupt federal operations." She banged the gavel. Darren looked like someone had just pulled the floor out from under him. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. We stood up. Veronica glanced at me. "Now we bury them." And we turned to leave the bench. As we stepped into the hallway outside the courtroom, Veronica pulled out her phone and started typing fast. I leaned against the wall, jaw tight, heart still thumping from watching Darren's smug little world start to crack. And just like that, it all came rushing back. The moment I knew I'd never be one of them. That was 8 years ago. I'd driven 3 hours back to Hartford just to pitch the idea to my dad in person. I even wore a damn blazer, like that would make a difference. We sat across from each other in his home office, the one with the leather chairs and the giant oil painting of himself behind the desk. Darren's future office. "I'm starting a private security tech company," I told him, voice steady. "It's small now, but I've got a prototype for breach detection hardware. If I can land a few clients..." He cut me off with a chuckle and waved his hand like I was pitching him a lemonade stand. "Brian, come on," he said. "Real men don't do computers. They run businesses." "I am building a business," I snapped back. "It's just not your kind." He leaned forward. "You're playing with gadgets. You're wasting your time. You want to succeed? Come work under Darren. You'll learn what real money looks like." I stared at him for a second. "I'm not interested in selling annuities to housewives." He didn't like that. "Fine, be a coder in your bedroom. Just don't come crawling back when it fails." That was it. No offer of help. No questions about the idea. Nothing. And of course, Mom stood by the doorway saying nothing, like always. Darren had already been handed the keys to the family's insurance firm. Amanda married some smooth-talking D.C. lobbyist and joined every women's leadership council in Connecticut. Meanwhile, I was the middle child who couldn't sit still, always messing with broken phones or writing lines of code in the basement. They thought I'd grow out of it. I didn't. The first 5 years after that conversation were brutal. I lived in a 2-bedroom walk-up in New Haven, where the AC barely worked and the neighbors screamed at each other through the walls. I taught myself embedded systems engineering off YouTube and PDFs. I coded 12 hours a day, chased contracts with school districts and private campuses. Some months, I barely broke even. Some months I didn't. I hired the wrong partners more than once. I had one guy disappear with a company laptop and $27,000 worth of gear. Another tried to steal our client list. It never occurred to me to call my family. I knew exactly what they'd say. Told you so. I'd rather eat ramen and sleep on the floor than hand them that satisfaction. So I kept grinding, one bug at a time, one client at a time. I learned how to write contracts, pitch pilots, keep my books tight. I went to every trade show I could afford, passed out flyers like a damn intern, shook hands until my knuckles cracked. I still remember the first time I saw the Ridgeview name on a signed invoice. That was mine. That wasn't their name. It was my mom's maiden name. I chose it for a reason. I didn't need their approval. I needed results. And I was just getting started. Didn't matter how lean I was living, how hard I pushed. None of it was ever good enough for them. Every holiday, every family dinner, every fake smile get-together turned into the same performance. Darren played the star. Amanda smiled like her life was a photo shoot. And I got the same tired digs. Still fixing toy drones? Darren would ask with that sideways grin. He's the Elon Musk of backyard gadgets. Mom would chuckle like it was harmless. Dad didn't laugh. He just stared, that judgmental squint like he was waiting for me to admit defeat. "You'll be back when it all falls apart," he said one Thanksgiving. "This phase has to end sometime. You've got too much Keller blood to keep playing around forever." That one stuck. I'd show up, try to be civil, bring a bottle of wine, even dress up a little. And every single time, I left more pissed off than the last. I'd sit in my car gripping the steering wheel, wondering why the hell I kept showing up for people who only saw me as a punchline. By year 3, I was done. No more dinners, no birthdays, no calls. I was out. I put everything I had into Ridgeview. I kept my head down and worked. Government work started trickling in. Small sheriff's offices, border patrol trial runs, then a small but solid Department of Transportation gig. I wasn't flashy, but I was steady and smart. I stopped using Brian Keller on any documents. Started signing everything Brian Adams, my mom's maiden name. Less baggage, fewer questions. I built a real team, engineers who actually gave a damn. Former military guys who knew what worked in the field. Our tech got sharper, our testing got cleaner. I started sleeping more than 4 hours a night. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just surviving, I was building. By year 6, Ridgeview had 35 employees and pulled over $8 million in revenue. We had offices in 2 cities. People were taking notice. The right people. And then came the big one. 6 weeks before the court date, I got the confirmation email. Homeland Security was awarding Ridgeview the contract. $130 million to develop and roll out breach response systems across 27 federal sites. No one knew it was me behind the name. No one needed to. I read the contract 3 times, alone in my office, blinds closed, door locked. Then I put my phone face down. No calls, no celebrations. I wasn't calling my dad. I wasn't giving Darren a single damn reason to open his mouth. I did what they never thought I would. I kept it quiet. Because I knew the second they found out, they'd come sniffing around, and they wouldn't come with congratulations. They'd come swinging, and I was ready. So, when I saw the envelope on my desk, certified mail, return address from Darren's lawyer, I already knew it wasn't congratulations. It was a civil petition, filed in Hartford County. Plaintiff, Darren Keller, claiming Ridgeview owed him $1.6 million from an alleged early-stage investment. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, staring at the stack of printed lies. The contracts were garbage. Fake dates, phony wire confirmations, made-up interest schedules. Some of them were laughably bad. The fonts didn't even match. One had my name spelled wrong. I forwarded the scan to Veronica with one line. "Tell me this isn't real." She called me 10 minutes later. "It's real, stupid but real." "You're kidding." "Nope," she said. I could hear her flipping pages. "This is amateur hour, but if he filed it, it still goes on record, which means this could slow federal clearance. DHS runs compliance reviews on pending litigation, even if the suit's baseless. If we don't squash it fast, you could get flagged." I felt my throat tighten. "You're saying this clown lawsuit could stall the entire contract?" "If the wrong person catches wind of it, yeah. Darren's either dumb or he knows exactly what he's doing." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. The office was quiet. My team didn't know yet. Hell, no one did. "Do you want a counterfile?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "I want to know how we even found out." It didn't take long to guess. I'd just closed on a new satellite office. Modest, but it made noise in town. My name wasn't on the Ridgeview website, but local filings weren't exactly locked down. And my uncle Danny, the one knee-deep in commercial real estate, was the type to run his mouth over cocktails. That's all Darren needed, a whiff, a headline, something that said I wasn't a joke anymore. He couldn't take it. For years he mocked me for playing with baby tech, called me the dropout brother without the balls to run a real business. And now, I had a federal contract with more zeros than anything he'd ever touched. That messed with his ego. So, he tried to bury it. But Darren didn't know I'd been operating in silence for years. He didn't know Ridgeview's paper trail was airtight, our filings locked down, our IP protected. He didn't know I'd been building this defense long before he ever filed that joke of a claim. Veronica called again the next morning. We're prepping the motion to dismiss, but this isn't about court. This is about noise. He wants to rattle your cage, delay the rollout, maybe get DHS to second-guess the award. He's not getting that, I said flat. He's not getting 1 second of hesitation. Good, she said. Then we fight. I hung up and walked out to the bullpen. My engineers were already deep in testing cycles. My ops manager was reviewing shipment logistics. No one knew yet what my own brother had just tried to pull, but they would. I walked straight to my office, shut the door, and started making a list. The list became a case plan. The case plan became 2 carts of documents. When the court date came, we were locked and loaded. I pushed 1 cart through the double doors of the courtroom myself. Veronica handled the second box after box, labeled, sorted, cross-referenced. Bank statements, contracts, metadata audits. It was all there. Darren was already sitting with his lawyer, same sweaty hack who filed the nonsense. His suit looked newer, but the desperation was baked in. And behind him, like some damn mafia lineup, were my parents. Mom with that cold little half smile. Dad looking like he was attending a shareholder funeral. No eye contact, no nod, just that stiff, silent judgment. Veronica leaned in. They really showed up for this? Oh yeah, I muttered. They want blood. The room was mostly empty. One reporter from the Hartford Business Journal sat in the back, scribbling on a pad. A couple curious law interns filled the back row. That was it. Then Judge Morales walked in. Same blunt force presence. She didn't smile. Didn't greet anyone. She sat down and pulled up her docket. Case number 74-338, Keller v. Ridgeview Tactical Systems, she announced. Darren's lawyer jumped up like a high school theater kid. Your Honor, we intend to prove that Mr. Brian Keller, also known as Brian Adams, misused family funds in the formation of his company and intentionally concealed financial agreements made with the plaintiff, my client, Mr. Darren Keller. I stared straight ahead, jaw locked. Veronica didn't move. She just waited. We'll present clear evidence of embezzlement, he continued, misrepresentation and financial abuse of trust between siblings. This is not just a civil claim. This is a matter of personal betrayal. Give me a break. Judge Morales didn't react right away. She turned to her laptop, typed something, scrolled, stopped. Defense, she said, glancing at Veronica. Approach the bench, plaintiff's counsel too. We stayed seated. Only the lawyers walked up. I watched Darren's posture shift. He leaned forward, tried to listen, but from his angle he couldn't hear much. Veronica didn't say a word, just nodded once, then reached into her briefcase and slid something onto the bench, a thick folder, color-coded tabs. The judge skimmed it, then glanced up. Ridgeview Tactical Systems, she said flat. You're the same company that was just awarded the Homeland Security contract? Veronica nodded. Yes, Your Honor. $130 million, fully cleared. Darren's lawyer blinked. I wasn't made aware of any federal ties. That's your job, Judge Morales snapped. If any portion of this petition is fraudulent, you've interfered with a federal contractor. Do you know what that means? He looked back at Darren, who was now shifting in his seat. The judge leaned closer. We're not talking civil damages anymore. We're talking potential federal obstruction. So you better make sure everything you filed is real. Veronica calmly opened the folder. Your Honor, we're prepared to present full financial documentation, government clearance letters, and forensic audits proving the plaintiff fabricated his entire claim. Judge Morales raised her hand. We'll recess for 30 minutes. Defense, organize your exhibits. Plaintiff's counsel, take a very good look at your case. When we return, this court will hear the truth. She banged the gavel. Darren stood up too fast, like the floor shifted under him. His eyes darted between his lawyer and the bench. I stood up slow. No rush. I looked him dead in the face. He didn't smile this time. Veronica rolled our cart toward the side room. Let's prep. I followed her, pushing the second cart without looking back. We rolled into the conference room and locked the door behind us. Veronica unzipped her case and started stacking files across the table, like she was laying out weapons. Start with bank statements, she said. Then the IRS returns. You've got the metadata audit. Right here. I passed it over. We flagged every one of his PDFs. All 5 were created within the last week. One of them, Monday at 2:13 a.m. Jesus, she muttered. He couldn't even backdate them properly? Nope. And the signatures? Compare them to his email signature block. Copy-pasted. Lazy as hell. She added the screenshots. I'm leading with that. Then we hammer the fake contracts. Then DHS clearance letters. I slid over the Homeland Security folder. Signed, stamped, original letterhead. These shut it down, right? They bury him, she said. But I'm not just shutting this down. I'm putting it on record that your brother tried to kneecap a federal contractor. I looked through the glass wall into the hallway. Darren was pacing, hand in his hair, whispering hard into his lawyer's ear. The guy was nodding way too fast. Veronica didn't stop working. She slid open another folder. Check this out. Public Facebook post from last year. She turned the screen. Darren, holding a cigar, grinning with a drink in his hand. Caption. Meanwhile, Lil Bro still thinks his hobby company matters. Cute. I let out a short laugh. This idiot really left a trail like that? Tagging 3 people in your family, she added. Public. Screenshots time-stamped. I shook my head. It was never about money. He just couldn't handle being wrong. Outside, Darren's pacing got faster. His lawyer took a step back, like he'd had enough of whatever Darren was saying. Veronica closed the last binder. That's it. We're set. You good? More than good. She zipped everything up, dead calm. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. We walked back into the courtroom 5 minutes early. Darren and his lawyer weren't seated yet. I sat down at the defense table. My cart of evidence sat to my right like a loaded weapon. Darren finally came in, slower now, shoulders tight. He didn't look at me. His parents came in behind him, faces blank. Mom touched his shoulder. Dad looked like he wanted to crawl out of his own skin. Judge Morales returned on the dot. She didn't say a word at first, just looked between both tables. Is defense ready? Veronica stood. Yes, Your Honor. All exhibits have been indexed and labeled, ready to proceed. Plaintiff? Darren's lawyer stood too. His voice cracked. Yes, Your Honor. The judge tapped her screen. Then let's begin. Veronica reached for the first folder, calm and surgical, and I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, ready to watch the whole damn lie burn. Veronica slid the first exhibit across the table, like it was a bullet. Judge Morales didn't waste time. Exhibit A, she said. Bank statements for Ridgeview Tactical Systems, fully audited, verified by both the IRS and a third-party firm. No record of any deposit from the plaintiff. None. She looked straight at Darren. Not one. Darren squirmed in his seat. His lawyer went stiff. No objections. Nothing to say. Exhibit B, the judge continued, a forensic metadata report. The 5 contracts submitted as evidence by the plaintiff were created no earlier than 5 days ago. On a personal laptop, time-stamped, with usernames linked directly to the plaintiff's residence. My hands stayed folded. I didn't blink. Exhibit C, signature analysis, she went on. Every signature used in the fabricated contracts was lifted digitally from an email footer. No physical ink, no original copies, no notarization, no paper trail. Darren looked at his lawyer. His lawyer didn't look back. And this, she said, flipping one more page, is a signed letter from the Department of Homeland Security confirming an active federal contract with Ridgeview Tactical Systems, which the plaintiff attempted to interfere with, using falsified legal documents. She set the file down like she was done playing. "This petition isn't just baseless," she said. "It's fraudulent." Behind Darren, my parents didn't move. I don't even think they were breathing. My mother's hands were clenched together in her lap. My father sat like a statue, stone-faced and pale. Darren finally spoke. "Your Honor, there was an agreement, just not written. It was a verbal commitment. He knows." "No, I don't," I said flatly. I turned toward him. "Name one bank transaction. Just one. Any date, any amount, I'll wait." He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Darren," I said, louder this time, "tell the court when you invested in Ridgeview. Give me one number." He had nothing. The judge leaned forward. "You've wasted this court's time. You've attempted to weaponize a legal process to sabotage a federally contracted business. That's not just a civil matter. That's criminal." His lawyer finally stood. "Your Honor, I was misinformed. I wasn't aware the documentation had been altered. I respectfully request to—" She cut him off. "Don't play dumb. You filed this. And now I'm referring this entire matter to the district attorney's office for review. Fraud, perjury, potential obstruction of federal operations." The courtroom went silent, that kind of silence that hums in your ears. My brother looked like someone had pulled the oxygen out of the room. His face was red, jaw clenched, chest rising too fast. I thought he might pass out. "Case dismissed," the judge snapped. "All evidence submitted will be retained for criminal proceedings. Court is adjourned." She slammed the gavel down. Veronica started packing the files calmly. She didn't look at anyone, just zipped up, locked her binder, and stacked it back onto the cart. I stood up slow, like I had all the time in the world. Darren turned around as I passed him. I stopped, looked him dead in the eye. "You tried to ruin me," I said low. "You lost, and now you're going to answer for it." His mouth opened like he had something to say, but nothing came out. He just looked gutted. I walked past him, past my parents, past the broken silence, and straight through the courtroom doors without looking back. I walked out of that courthouse like a man who'd just torched the last bridge he'd ever need, and I didn't regret it for one damn second. 2 days later, Darren's lawyer flipped, couldn't hand over the documents fast enough, claimed he didn't know they were fake, but gave up everything. Emails, text threads, voice memos. Turned out Darren had walked him through the entire plan, step by step. The DA didn't wait long. Charges dropped fast and hard, filing false documents, perjury, and attempting to interfere with a federal contractor. Felonies, all of them. Veronica called me when it hit the wire. "You see the release?" "Just read it," I said. "Every word." She paused. "He's cooked, Brian." "Yeah, and he lit the fire himself." Gerald must have felt the panic hit like a freight train, because within 24 hours, his lawyer was on the phone with federal prosecutors, quietly trying to negotiate. He called in every favor he had, country club buddies, donors, board members from 3 different banks, anything to soften the fall. Darren ended up with 18 months in minimum security, no bail deal, just a delayed surrender date to get his affairs in order. The family business took a beating. One of their biggest commercial clients pulled a 7-figure policy. Another paused all renewals. A write-up in New England Business Weekly ran with the headline, "Keller Insurance Tied to Federal Fraud." The board wasn't amused. A month later, Gerald stepped down from the CEO role to focus on family matters. Yeah, right, I never got a call. No apology, no admission, just silence. Until the envelope showed up. Handwritten, my mom's cursive on the front. I opened it at my desk, middle of a Tuesday, while we were reviewing security protocol for a nuclear site upgrade. "Brian, I hope you'll understand someday. We were just trying to protect you from yourself. Darren acted foolishly, yes, but our intentions were never to hurt you. We just worried you were in over your head. I know now that we should have handled it differently. Please know we still love you." Mom. Misguided concern, that's what she called it, like dragging me into court, backing my brother's fraud, and watching in silence while he tried to destroy my career was some awkward parenting mistake. I didn't write back. I didn't reply to the letter. Didn't answer her follow-up email either. Didn't take Gerald's calls. I heard through Amanda that they'd started asking about me again, just wanting to talk. No thanks. I was busy. I had federal systems to install. I had 35 employees counting on me. I had clients on waiting lists and a contract renewal round coming up that could double our footprint. I had no time left for people who only looked my way when they needed damage control. They'd made their choice, and so had I. So I folded the letter in half, dropped it in the shred bin, and walked back to the briefing room. I got the letter from Amanda in early spring. The envelope was gold-trimmed, like it came straight out of a damn wedding catalog. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting right away. I opened it in the Ridgeview break room, leaning on the counter while my coffee brewed. Brian, I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I wanted to say something, not as your sister, but as someone who always secretly believed in you. I know I never said it, but I admired your persistence. When you started Ridgeview, I thought it was smart. But with the family so against it, I didn't know how to step in. I stayed out of it. Maybe that was wrong. For what it's worth, I didn't agree with what Darren did, or how Mom and Dad handled things. I'm sorry you had to go through that alone. I wish I had spoken up sooner. If you ever feel like talking, I'm here. No pressure, just respect. Amanda, I read it once, then again, slower. The whole thing was dressed up in clean words and maybes and I wishes. But underneath it, damage control. She wasn't reaching out because she finally grew a conscience. She was reaching because her world took a hit. Her social boards, her fundraisers, her reputation. She needed to separate herself from the wreckage, and I was her lifeline. I pulled out a sticky note and wrote one sentence. Silence when it mattered most is just agreement. I sealed it in an envelope, no note, no explanation, and dropped it in the mail that afternoon. She'd get the message. Strangely, I didn't feel angry. Not anymore. I'd already spent years choking on that kind of weight. The courtroom ripped it all open, but what came after? It cleared the air. I wasn't interested in repairing anything. But I also didn't need to carry it anymore. Not forgiving, not forgetting. Just done. I still kept her letter, not in some drawer of memories, but as proof. Proof that even the ones who stood by and watched eventually had to admit what they saw. Recognition doesn't fix what broke, but it's enough to close the file. I tossed my empty coffee cup in the trash and walked back to the floor. I stepped out of the Ridgeview elevator and checked my phone. One unread message from the hospital. He's here. 2 weeks early. By the time I got to the delivery room, my wife was already holding him. Tiny, quiet, with that squished face newborns always have. My chest felt like it cracked open. We named him Elijah, after my mom's dad. The only man in my family who ever looked me in the eye and said, "Don't wait for anyone's permission. Build it." I held Elijah later that night in the nursery, paint still fresh, new crib, soft light from the corner lamp. The house was quiet, a house I bought outright, in a city none of my family had ever stepped foot in. He blinked up at me, calm, warm against my chest. I swayed back and forth, just enough to keep him settled. "You won't know the people who tried to tear me down," I whispered to him. "You'll know the ones who lifted me up." That was the promise. The article came out a few weeks later. Increos magazine, full feature, 3 pages. The founder who beat the odds and his family. It was factual, sharp, honest. I didn't edit a word. Let it speak for itself. People asked if I'd heard from my parents after that. I hadn't, and I didn't care to. Ridgeview hit the 10-year mark right around then. We had over 70 employees, 5 active federal contracts, and a 6-month wait list. Our tech was in airports, shipping ports, and government data centers coast to coast. The company stood, and so did I. I didn't need to explain any of it, not to my family, not to the press, not to anyone, because I knew what mattered now. Elijah stirred in my arms, gave this soft little grunt. I smiled and kissed the top of his head. Then I tucked him into the crib, shut off the light, and walked back into the life I built. Thank you for being with us. Don't miss our new stories. They're coming soon. If you haven't yet, please leave a like and follow the page to see more great content. Your support means a lot to us and motivates us to create even more warm, meaningful stories. See you next time. Take care and stay curious.